The total package here comes to roughly $6 trillion, $2 trillion direct assistance, roughly $4 trillion in Federal Reserve lending power. Again, it'll be the largest Main Street financial package in the history of the United States. Liquidity and cash for families, small business, individuals, unemployed, to keep this thing going. We're heading for a rough period, but it's only going to be weeks, we think. Weeks, months, not going to be years, that's for sure. And hopefully pave the way for continued economic recovery after this crisis.
All right, so folks, you heard it here first. $6 trillion is going to be the total cost of the recovery package. Truth of the matter is, it's probably going to be more like 10. With the Federal Reserve over here buying up unlimited amounts of assets, right? Which is ridiculous, right? Because, all right, so I explained to y'all in, past videos over the past few days how all this is going to work, right? What they're going to do is they're going to stand here and buy assets. They're going to go into like the corporate bond market and go into the municipal bond market. And they're going to stand here and actually buy bonds out of the bond market that aren't MBS. This started way back in 2008 when they started buying mortgage-backed securities. It's patently ridiculous, right? $4 trillion coming out of the Federal Reserve. The last time the stimulus happened, it was about $3 trillion, somewhere right around there. $10 trillion in the total world. Well, this time, it's going to be about $4 trillion. I think it's going to be more than that, me personally. You know what I'm saying? I think it's probably going to end up being more like probably around $8 to $9 trillion by the time we're done paying for all this nonsense. That we're all going to be on the hook for. And then on top of that, the fact that they're doing the overnight markets moving and, things of this nature. Because they've already pumped $1.5 trillion just in December alone. They've been pumping money into the markets at like a staggering pace, which has been patently ridiculous. And I don't really, we're heading for inflation. You know what I'm saying? I call hyperinflation. It depends on how bad it gets. I think it could get to that point. That's where my mentality is right now. That's why I'm saying these gold and silver ETFs, these miners joints probably aren't a bad bet right now. Legitimately. You know what I'm saying? Things is going up. Last time this happened, gold went from, $800 an ounce to 15. It's at 15 or it's at 16 actually today. I'm betting it probably goes to 2,000. And I'm betting silver's probably going to pop up over $25, $30 an ounce. So that's where my mentality is. That's why I think, these ETFs are going to pay off. All right. And that's where the mentality comes from. On top of that, right, you know what I'm saying? Since we covered that one, let's cover the other one, which is also really important, right? We're going to go with this one here, right? This one here is, something else completely from Yahoo Finance. They finally made a deal on a $2 trillion coronavirus stimulus deal for businesses. All right, this happened overnight tonight. Early Wednesday morning, Senators Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer announced a massive $2 trillion stimulus deal that is set to be the largest economic stimulus package in American history. This is a wartime level of investment into our nation, McConnell said. The deal is set to include a range of far-reaching provisions, everything from a $1,200 government checks to individuals to hundreds of billions of dollars to fight the crisis are included. But the most contentious part of the negotiations were clearly provisions to send over $500 billion directly to impacted businesses. I don't understand why we need this, or why this needs to be contentious. If the government tells you to shut down, and I've always had a problem with this with the government, where the government they stand here and go, we're mandating 50 mile per gallon cars. So we've done our part. Now I'm like, what are you doing to pay for it? Are you paying these individuals to do this? These are businesses. You know what I'm saying? They operate on what the consumer wants, not on what the government wants. That's not how this operates. If you want them to stand here and do something extra, they want handicapped bathrooms or, you want walls that, mongoloids can lick, you need to stand here and pay for it. If that's what you want to have these businesses do when it really comes down to it, and you told all these individuals to shut down and you said, you're not allowed to be in business. And right now in Pennsylvania, they actually have a hotline that you can call, if you think a business should be shut down and isn't. You know what I mean? In other words, if you don't want to go to work, like, you go, yo, my business isn't essential. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why this is a thing, right? You can literally call them and the state police will show up and shut them down. You know what I mean? Stasi level Germany type of stuff at this point. So let's keep going through this. All right. So the initial proposal of Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell was repeatedly slammed as a $500 billion slush fund by Democrats, right? And it was slammed by, you know, I mean, the initial, you know, I mean, Democrat bill was slammed by everybody else as being patently communist. Because they said, like, if you take bailout money, you have to put in diversity officers at your company. Like, what is that nonsense? Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, come on now, right? As a $500 billion slush fund by Democrats who held up the bill until changes were made, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin and fellow Republicans in the end agreed to a range of oversight measures over how companies be able to spend all that money. Like all compromises, this bill is far from perfect, but we believe the legislation has improved significantly. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said after the deal was announced. Both Republican and Democrat leaders predicted the bill was passed quickly on the Senate. As of early Wednesday, parts of the final bill were still being written by legislators, but here's a rundown of what we know about what's in the deal aimed specifically at the business community. For the airlines, a special provision. We're going back to the airlines 100%. We're going to back the airlines 100%, President Trump said last week about one of the industry's hardest by the ongoing crisis. The deal reportedly includes $50 billion specifically for passenger airlines, $8 billion for cargo airlines, and $17 billion for firms that are deemed important to national security. Airline CEO recently promised to stop stock buybacks and paying dividends in exchange for help from the federal government. That's okay. I can understand stopping the stock buybacks. All right. I can get that mentality. Right. But stop paying dividends is dumb. Like, you want people to buy your stock so you have more money to invest. And you want your stock to go upward so you have more money to invest in your company and be able to have, you know, I mean, the opportunity to sit here and, you know, like, be able to run your company properly. Like, you need to be able to pay a dividend. Like, that's, you know, that's how long-term investment works. That's why you hold on to stocks and bonds instead of like trading them and speculating. You know, I mean, this is why 401ks hold on to things, because like, if you pay a dividend, it's kind of like extra cash on top of things. On Tuesday, Reuters reported that the final negotiations on the package included a mix of grants and loans to these companies, while President Trump signaled Tuesday evening that the money would come in the form of loans. We are helping Boeing. We'll be helping the airlines. He said, we'll be doing a lot of things with the money. It will all come back to us. What? Again, you told them to shut down. Now you're going to charge them for the privilege? See, this is the problem with government. Like, yo, this is the government trying to make money, I guess. Like, this is dumb, legitimately. Like, I don't understand why you would think that this should be a thing. Like, I could understand if hard times hit a business, you know what I mean, where, you know, in general, there was a financial collapse, you know what I mean? They ended up standing here and needed money to be able to get by. But this isn't that situation. You shut down the economy on purpose to save baby boomers. And now you're going to charge them for the privilege of not operating. How does that work? Really? I mean, because like, you still like have to stand here and maintain and pay taxes and do all the stuff for your real estate, and, you know what I mean, pay for maintenance on your planes, and, you know what I mean, all the things that come with having a major airline, and make upgrades and all these type of things that you still have to do. Only thing you're not doing is actually flying the planes at the moment. Like, you know what I mean? So like, yeah, you have some of your overhead is gone, but like, you still have a bunch of overhead. Like, what type of nonsense is anyway, right? And on top of that, you have loans you have to stand here and pay. You know what I mean? Because you take out loans, and, you know what I mean, you have to pay dividends to individuals. Like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. All right, hundreds of billions more for all types of businesses. Other impacted industries, from the cruise industry to hotels to restaurants, have arranged ways to get government cap. Previous stimulus efforts put $50 billion aside for the Small Business Association. That money's already going to be approved. An SBA official told Yahoo Finance last Friday this deal ramps things up aggressively, with hundreds of billions of dollars in loans now expected to be available in the coming weeks and months. Senator Marco Rubio, Republican of Florida, chairman of the Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship, said this was one of the leaders pushing the small business provisions. All right. This is not a program where you're going to go into the SBA. You're not going to go to a tent somewhere in a disaster area, get some government office or some government website. He said in the Senate floor over the weekend, you're going to go to a bank, a financial institution. The banks will then, according to the plan, be able to process cash assistance quickly, either through the SBA or through a new program that will be set up specifically to administer some of the money. The deal reportedly includes $367 billion for small business loan programs, as well as $500 billion fund for a new lending agency. Okay, so everybody talks about why the banks, because they're already there. That's why. All right. Like, legitimately, like, if the government wanted to, like, start handing out free cars to people, the government shouldn't set up car lots. You should just use the car lots that already exist to do so. Like, it's much easier that way and way less expensive. And especially since they're already in the business of dealing with cars. You don't have to train a whole bunch of new people. You don't have to go through setting up, nonsense. You don't have to do all the extracurricular stuff. You don't have to deal with government red tape. These people already know how to give out loans. They already know how to, like, approve things. They know how to move the money around. They have all the financial information already. Like, this is why we do it through banks. Like, this is not a bailout for the bank. I'm sure they're going to take a fee off the top, but it is what it is. What is still a bit of a mystery exactly how this new lending agency will work. Senator Pat Toomey, Republican, Pennsylvania, has been a central negotiator on this portion of the package and gave some insight on how this big credit facility will work on Sunday on NBC. He said the facility will have two components. One will be administered by the Treasury Secretary with direct loans on a short list of seriously distressed and absolutely essential companies, likely including airlines. The second component will be a much bigger and broad-based credit facility that will be available across categories, across sectors and industry. Toomey says that the money that this new facility give out will be loans that in the end have to be repaid. None of this is grant money, he said, in which it should be grant money. Legitimately, it should be grant money. Businesses of all sizes, many of whom are currently facing the prospect of mass bankruptcies, will be able to participate in different programs. The idea of a separate lending program outside of the SBA was also championed by Senator Mark Warner, Democrat, Virginia, in a recent Yahoo Finance interview. He noted that a second loan authority would allow more businesses to be able to participate. In the past, he says, there were all these well-intentioned programs, but there was always so much funding bureaucracy and underwriting that there was no take-up on rate. No take-up rate. There was also expected to be crucial change in how at least some of these loans will work. Some of these loans appear to be set to eventually be forgiven and effectively become grants. I hate to be a dick, but they probably should be. These are going to be able to take an SBA loan and will get them 2 months of payroll and some overhead. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said on Fox Business on Monday, adding, if we hire workers back or they keep their workers hired, the government will forgive that loan. Yeah. It's all, this is, not for the company. This is for the people. That's how you make sure it's for the people. A lot of that cash, especially from the new lending agent facility, will find its way into a range of publicly traded companies. The deal includes provisions to stop these companies from using that cash for stock buybacks or executive bonuses. Every loan document will be public and made available to Congress very quickly so we can see where the money is going, Senator Schumer said Wednesday morning on the Senate floor. A condition for receiving government loans from the bill will be that a company cannot make stock buybacks for 1 year. How are you gonna stand here and pump up the stock market to some crazy inflationary rate if you don't have, $1 trillion a year being bought up in stock buybacks? I don't understand. Please explain this to me. Because this is a major part of GDP for the market. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of they're stacking sandbags for these 401k recipients. You do understand that you're just hurting 401k people at this point. That's really what you're doing. Anyway, the oversight and provisions include a new inspector general provision focused on oversight of these funds, along with a 5-person congressional panel. The structure is similar to what was done for the Troubled Asset Relief Program of a decade ago. Yeah, that worked well. Neil Borofsky, who's Special Inspector General for TARP, noted the Yahoo Finance interview Tuesday that putting the entity into place is a first step. He said, adding, but then there has to actually be real oversight, real transparency. Schumer's office added that the deal will prohibit businesses controlled by the president, vice president, members of Congress, and heads of executive departments from receiving loans or investment from Treasury programs. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with that ideology. You know what I'm saying? Yo, I'm with that ideology. A range of other stimulative measures. Hundreds of billions more dollars in the deal will also include flow to businesses. First and foremost, Low makes hope that the $1,200 checks will be spent across a range of industries. The deal also includes a massive expansion of unemployment insurance for 4 months. Schumer calls the agreement unemployment compensation on steroids and said that the federal government will pay the full salary of workers who were laid off as a result of the crisis. You know, like, of course you will. You know what I mean? Like, yo, because the rest of us don't get that, but government workers do. The plan also includes a massive infusion of cash into the healthcare industry. Healthcare providers, community health centers, and hospitals are set to receive over $130 billion to fight the virus, while states and localities are set to receive another $150 billion. Overall, Washington is hoping that the deal will set the stage for a robust economic recovery. If we get this package, we'll be setting the stage for a good rebound in the second half of the year, said Larry Kudlow. The White House's top economic advisor told reporters Tuesday that the deal was finalized, and that's our thinking. All right, so I wanted to bring you this information so you know the situation for the day. All right, so AP knows the situation, and he can go through his day, you know what I mean, and be cool and not have to worry about what's going on. You know what I mean? I had to make sure that I had this out for y'all. You know what I mean? So, basically, let's wrap this up in a nice little bow for you. All right. $6 billion, probably 10 by the time it's all said and done. Right, $6 trillion, probably 10. You know what I mean? Trillion by the time it's all said and done. Hang on 1 second. Sorry, I had to sneeze. Right. And on top of that, they reached a deal on a $2 trillion deal, which was originally $1 trillion, then $1.5 trillion, then $2.5 trillion. They settled on $2 trillion. And by the time this is probably done, it's probably going to end up costing around $4 trillion. Like, yo, and I'm going to tell you how they're going to do it. It's all going to be spent through Medicare and Social Security. Legitimately. Right? They're going to pump a shit ton of money into Medicare and Social Security for this. And none of that has to actually be funded. Right? Because like the Congress doesn't have any oversight for that. And you're going to watch. You know, it's going to be ridiculous the amount of money they're going to spend on these two things. Legitimately. But Congress don't have to approve that. It just automatically gets spent. Anyway, man, this is Tom Peace from Pnoid News. You know the situation. Like, share, and subscribe. Yo, man, you'll come back for more information. I might drop a video later today. We'll see what's popping. All right? I'm going to holler at y'all. Peace be like one. Later.